Welcome to Dodgers Dogs. Casey Porter here, joined as I am each and every week by Austin Brubaker. Austin, welcome in. Hey, it was homecoming for OSU this last weekend, so I've been super busy, but super excited to get back to the Dodgers talk. We're going to talk a lot of 40-man. We have Ryanward on the docket tonight. We're going to talk all about him. We have Drew Avens. You know, he's one of my favorite players. We're going to show video and talk all about him. And then we also have Ybit Vivas. I know he's a favorite. He had a really good year last year, so welcome in, Austin.
Casey, thanks for having me.
Okay, man, what's on your mind? First of all, Dodgers talk. You know, this is kind of, the World Series hasn't ended yet, so kind of one of those dead periods, if you will. So what's on your mind?
Yeah, so for the Dodgers specifically, it is kind of one of those dead waiting periods as we're watching the World Series. One, I think we have to take a step back and just kind of appreciate the World Series for the spectacle that it is. Even if the team like the Dodgers isn't in it, we get two teams that we don't normally see in the World Series, Texas and Arizona. I think that in and of themselves, with the kind of style that they play, presents a really unique matchup for them. So for the Dodgers, them specifically and the rest of the baseball world is kind of waiting for this World Series to kind of finish up, waiting to see what the results are, just kind of taking a step back and enjoying the game of baseball. Because immediately after the World Series ends is when things are going to start to pick up and some of these decisions are going to have to be made. And that's going to happen sometime over the course of the next week. So what we're going to be talking about today has to do with a lot of the decisions that the Dodgers are going to be making really shortly.
So first of all, before we dive into this, Mike, good evening. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, super excited. Mike, he just sent me on Twitter his schedule for spring training, and man, he's got a whole week. He's going to get a super amount of content. We're going to get him live in spring training. Probably going to set him up for some interviews to do for Dodgers Daily if he's interested in that. So super excited that Mike's able to do that. Also, if we can raise enough money, if Austin's up for it, I'm going to try to make it to spring training on the Dodgers Daily Dime. And I hope to take Austin with me if he wants to come. That's if we can get a campaign going and get some money raised and get Austin and I out there. Would you be up for that, Austin?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll get that started here before too long. Craig, good evening. Craig always joins. What a wonderful, wonderful Dodgers Daily fan, just Dodgers fan all in all. Craig is Texas 3-0. Yeah, the Damino, Austin and I know all about those dead periods. Yeah. Ela Shiva, thank you so much for joining all of the, the wonderful crowd at Dodgers Daily showing up tonight. Always do a wonderful job in the chat. Two gritty teams in the World Series and non-cheating teams. Gotta like that.
Yes, yeah, no, it's a fun matchup. I know Dodgers lost to Arizona. That definitely sucks, but seeing a team like that, some of the young players that they have, is fun to watch. Seeing some of the stars, seeing Corey Seager still be able to hit. I know he had a home run in the game tonight. He had a clutch home run in Game 1 of the World Series. I know it stings to see him go, but even with that, we're still, with these guys that come up with the system, we're still rooting for them. And I think with a guy like Corey Seager, we're still happy to see him succeed.
Okay, Austin, first of all, you talked about the season has to be over before the Dodgers do any of this. Not going to lie, it's, hey, I wish the Dodgers were in the World Series, but just kind of the mental break. Everybody needs a little bit of mental break, and whenever you're in the World Series, then it goes directly into the 40-man talk. It can get pretty hectic. So, first of all, Austin, you are just absolute ace on this kind of stuff. Tell everybody what's going to happen basically the day after the Major League Baseball season ends as far as filling out rosters, what all that is and what it all pertains.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert per se with a lot of these details. A lot of this is what I've seen through some of the websites. Basically, the day after the World Series is an important day because that starts basically the process of free agency. So the Dodgers have right now technically 51 players on their 40-man roster. The reason why it's 51 is because they have a lot of players on the 60-day injured list. That is going to start trimming down with some of the free agents that they have. They also have certain contracts options that they could extend. We're going to be going through each one of these individuals, but basically immediately after the World Series is going to start the period where a lot of these teams see some of their free agents start becoming free agents. I think they might have a certain period to negotiate with these free agents, 5 days or so before they become free agents. I know November 14th, I believe, is the day in which a lot of these players need to be that are eligible for the Rule 5 draft need to be added to the 40-man roster to be protected. So a lot of talk about what we're going to be talking about today has to do with the players that are going to be free agents, some of the guys that might be per se have some sort of contract exercise, or they have some sort of club option. I know a lot of guys on the Dodgers, particularly in the bullpen, have a club option. Or we're going to be talking about a lot of the guys who might have to be added to the 40-man in order to be protected from being taken. A lot of there's a lot of moving pieces in the first half of November, basically immediately after the World Series ends.
Yasiel Puig, good evening. Hey, Austin, too, don't be afraid to answer some of these questions, too, and read some of these, because I know a lot of times that I read them, I send it to you, and you're kind of like, well, why don't you answer that, too? So we can go back and forth with this, which would be a whole lot of fun. So let's see if you agree with this. We'll see if the lobby agrees with this. I think the way that you approach this, of course, you got to get it down to 40. The first thing you have to do is figure out your free agents, which ones you're going to sign, which ones you aren't. That tells you exactly how many spots you're going to have. Having said that, it's kind of a balancing act, because I think you have, maybe 3-4 guarantees, like a Landon Knack, a nickfrasso, guys like that you say, hey, no matter what we do in free agency, we have to have at least 3 spots available, or however many it is that the Dodgers feel like are guarantees. So I think the first thing that they do, Austin, is I think they sit down and they figure out 100% guaranteed, no matter what, who are the prospects that are not on the 40-man that absolutely have to get added, guys like nickfrasso, right? So I think you go from that prospect. So then let's say that that's 5, okay? So now that puts you up to 56. So now you got to figure out a way to get that from 56 down to 40 when you're talking about the club options, the free agents, guys you may want to release, guys you may want to DFA, guys you may want to do whatever you have to do with to get down to 40. Do you think that's the process that the Dodgers will take?
I think that's certainly an element. I think with some of those guys, especially some of the higher names, we talk about guys like a nickfrasso, a guy like a Landon Knack. I think those are the 2 highest priority for the Dodgers because of their proximity to the major leagues and because of their insane upside, especially at the starting end. I think they see those guys as likely 2 guys that they have to keep. Yes. And make sure that they don't get taken in the Rule 5 draft. Rule 5 draft, there actually isn't necessarily a ton of players, depending on the year, that get taken throughout major leagues. There's about 20 players or so that get exchanged through that. So I think with that, you want to look at your main priority first. Get perhaps some of those guys that you might consider adding to that Rule 5 draft, kind of have a list as far as that goes, and then kind of see where the rest of the roster is. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made. I kind of have it broken down. There is some room to add some talent, but it also depends on what the Dodgers' philosophy is going into this upcoming season. Are you wanting to add some of that star and only a couple of players, or you want to diversify that out a little bit? That also is going to be determining as far as how many players they want to add to their 40-man roster, who they think won't get taken, so then they don't have to add them. There's a lot of moving pieces right now.
This is a good question. Read this one from Mike. Do you see it in front of you there, Austin?
I can pull it up in just a second.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and tackle this. Alex Reyes, Daniel Hudson, Blake Trinan, Joe Kelly, Max Muncy, and Lance Lynn all have club options. Who do we keep and who does not get the club option? I can tell you right now, if it was up to me, I wouldn't keep any of them.
I think that is a fair analysis. So let me run through the actual details. Now, this might vary a little bit. This is information given by FanGraphs, plus a little bit of an update for Max Muncy. I just want to read out the actual financial details as far as the decisions that are going to be made. So you have the guys that are in the bullpen. Daniel Hudson has a $6.5 million offer. Joe Kelly, 9.5.
Which is cheap if you can get Daniel Hudson back, but we haven't been able to do that. Yeah.
Yes, and that is the thing with a lot of these guys. There's a lot of guys that have been injured a lot. Are you willing to pay that money and expect them to be a part of that bullpen when you can find pieces elsewhere? We saw last year Dodgers be able to pick up a guy like a Ryan Brazier and take a guy and be able to fix him. I think they have confidence that they can do that to different bullpen guys, which is why I don't necessarily expect these options to be picked up. I think they could, but potentially at a little bit of a lower price, some sort of that negotiation.
Well, the price is the 40-man roster spot. It's not the money.
Yeah, no,
so, I mean, do you want to keep a Daniel Hudson over a nickfrasso? Do you want to keep a Daniel Hudson over a, we'll get into some of the names, or over Landon Knack or somebody like that? That's kind of where the nitty-gritty is going to come down to.
Yeah, and I think they will definitely prioritize Knack and Frasso over some of these guys. It depends on where some of the other potential roster flexibility you're looking at, some of that other depth in the bullpen that's not free agents is concerned. But continuing along to us, just some of the financial details. Daniel Hudson, 6.5. Joe Kelly, 9.5. Alex Reyes, 3. And then Blake Trinan, depending on what the estimates are, could be up to 7 is what the estimate says. All of those ones, bullpen arms, those ones can vary. I potentially could see maybe 1 or 2 of them.
Joe Kelly.
Most likely though, they would be not picked up, but renegotiated as far as the contract is concerned. Lance Lynn, $18 million option. I think we all saw the issues that Lance Lynn has. I don't think that we expect Lance Lynn's option to pick up. I don't think Dodgers fans after that performance necessarily want that option to be picked up. That is out there. I don't expect that to be picked up. He's getting up there in age. Obviously, his most recent performance was not good. If they need somebody to eat innings, that could potentially be a possibility, but I don't think for $18 million.
Yeah.
And then you go to Max Muncy, which you and I have a little bit of a disagreement with Max Muncy. I will continue to hold to what some of the overall value concern, even if he is an extremely frustrating and inconsistent player to watch at times. I think the overall body of work during the course of the regular season is there. Even if you don't want to keep him on the Dodgers, if you want to potentially trade him, I think the value of $14 million for him is well worth the value that he brings, just with the overall WAR that he brings, with the power that he brings. I think if he goes potentially to free agency, he will at least hit that, if not well over hit that as far as the value that he gets on the free agency. I think that is something that you can pick up. And then if you want to move him,
I mean,
yes.
how valuable would he be in a lineup that's not the Dodgers? I think a large part of his value is the fact that he's found a niche with the Dodgers that has made him valuable.
So I think you could potentially argue with the fact that he could be, some of the players in the Dodgers lineup could be protecting him. And certainly Max Muncy, a lot of his value is driven by his. It could potentially be that. Absolutely. And you don't necessarily know that. But the fact, if you look at FanGraphs, if you look at, and this is shouldn't be the only measuring stick that you use, but if you look at WAR for FanGraphs, he has been consistently over the past years been a 2.5, 3, 4 WAR player. If you use the valuation of $8-9 million per WAR.
But the Dodgers have also been the best offense. So every time he's hit a home run, it's mattered.
Yes, but WAR just takes into account the individual accomplishment that you have as a player. It doesn't take into account necessarily.
Well, but the individual accomplishment would be I had so many RBIs, I had so many of these or that, and those are all independent on how your teammates are doing around you.
Yes, so WAR tries to take a lot of those individual factors apart as well. So it tries to be all-encompassing. Basically, what I'm just trying to say is that Max Muncy has been an extremely valuable hitter. No matter what one team is going to see that $14 million price tag for a guy with that value and be able to – that's going to be a guy that some teams want. Maybe not all teams because of his – what was that?
I love these conversations, by the way. These back and forths, I love these. These are right up my. Okay, what kind of team would that be? That would pick up if it's not the Dodgers. What kind of team would that be?
I think that would be any team that's looking for any sort of power or any sort of bat. I think almost all teams would take a bat like him. I might be in the minority. Third base? I don't know if they necessarily.
Because the Dodgers are going to have to put him at third base if they want him to be on the team. So is he worth that much money as a third baseman?
Yes. There we go. I will hold to this.
I think honestly, you could make a better argument for him if he was your everyday DH.
I think
first baseman. I think if you're looking for a first baseman or a DH or some kind of combination of that, I think he brings more value in that scenario than what the Dodgers need out of him, which is a third baseman.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's totally fair. And that's why I think some other teams could potentially see the value in a guy like a Max Muncy, with him being a first baseman or DH, or even being able to fill in at third base as well. I think that's why you don't give up Max Muncy for nothing. I think you pick up that contract, and then if you decide to move on, which I don't necessarily know is the best strategy for him, because it's very difficult to get a guy who is that valuable. I think if you decide to pick him up, which I think is a smart thing to do, if you want to move on for him, the trade would be the best option.
But see, the Dodgers don't need more prospects. What they need actually is more room to – what they need is 40-man roster spots. So they already have way too many prospects than they can ever put on a 40-man roster that are ready for the major leagues right now. So the Dodgers, the last thing they need, in my opinion, is more prospects. What they need is actually room to get the prospects that they have now onto the 40-man, and so trading him would just muddy those waters. And you're not going to get two prospects that are going to be any better or as good as what you already have for Max Muncy.
But you can certainly add to the depth that you have in the organization if you want that, or you can use him in a package to get more star power if you're looking to add some more of that star power starting pitching, if that's the option that you're going at. There's a lot of alternatives. I don't think giving up Max Muncy for nothing is the smart thing to do.
Attaboy, Austin. That's good. I've been in a lot of these conversations before, and I can be kind of an asshole sometimes. So I'm proud of you for holding your own there, brother. That's good.
Appreciate that. Yeah. There's certain things that'll stay. That's one of those where, okay, I'll stick up to that.
Okay, good, man. That's exactly what we want here, and we want to hear what everybody in the crowd thinks. And that's kind of where we're at. I would not pick up Max Muncy. Definitely not Lance Lynn. Alex Reyes, no. Daniel Hudson, no. Blake Trinan, no. Joe Kelly for, did you say $9 million?
Joe Kelly's 9.5.
Absolutely, I would keep him. That wouldn't even be a question. Having said that, you don't know about the injuries, and man, it's hard for relievers like him to have two good back-to-back years. So I could, if somebody wanted to convince me that they wouldn't keep Joe Kelly for all of those reasons, and maybe and they said, okay, I wouldn't keep Joe Kelly. So what I'd do is I'd figure out a way to go get him at the trade deadline again, like the Dodgers did this year. I could see that, and only if he's actually healthy enough to do that. So I could see that. Shiva says Muncy is valuable. Yeah, he's definitely the most, him and Chris Taylor, I would say, are the two most polarizing figures on the team, because, man, those dudes have been clutch. They have come through. They have had huge hits for the Dodgers. But then, it's just kind of one of those deals where you feel like you're trying to turn over a new leaf. You feel like the organization needs to turn over a new leaf. You have all these budding stars ready to play. You have Michael Bush, of course, Miguel Vargas. You have guys like Brandonlewis. You got guys like Luis Diaz, Ybit, Vivas. All these, Austin Gothier is coming up. You got all these guys that are ready for the major leagues right now. So it's just an interesting topic.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting topic, especially because for those guys particularly, one, they're a lot of three true outcome heavy guys. And so you're dealing with that dynamic. And you're also dealing with the dynamic of what your eyes show, which shows a lot of inconsistency versus perhaps what some of the numbers show as far as the value is concerned, and some sort of clashes in that, which makes some of the conversations like this really interesting to have. Sometimes frustrating at times, but certainly worth discussion.
No doubt about it. And you dominate all the figures and the salaries and the actual value and the deep dive into the advanced analytics, which makes it great, because I'm more of just from the coaching perspective of, okay, what do I see? How does this play into a team? As a manager, what am I thinking? And then you have the advanced analytics, so it's to me, it makes for a great, interesting mix. Hey, very excited to see that Mike says that he is all in for doing some interviews at spring training. So that'll be super exciting. Hey, wanting to grow this Dodgers Daily community as large as we possibly can. What I love to do, and when I was the head coach in multiple sports, what I love to do, what Austin and I just did, get as many people around me that were as different as I am as possibly could be. That way, every time you had an issue like Max Muncy, everybody had their own opinion, and it was different. And then everybody would kind of throw their hat in the ring, if you will, and then you chew on all of the interesting comments that were made and try to make the best decision for theirs. So I'm trying to do that here with Dodgers Daily, where you kind of create a community of people that all have different perspectives that can kind of give you a different perspective on everything. So super appreciate everybody who's helped. Austin, you have been huge for this. Coach Holt, and we're going to get Andrew Hickman on a little bit more, and still looking to grow. I know Mike's written a couple of articles that have been simply fantastic. So definitely looking to grow the community here. Ela Shiva says, I hope to attend Dodgers spring training again as well. The Damino says, great team store in Arizona. Yeah, Ela Shiva. Yasiel Puig says, let's do this. Mad Max out back, Gray in for the, need to keep most of the pitchers, is what Craig says. Pitcher hurt. Kyle Hurt's another one. He's already on the 40-man, though. Kendall Williams.
Yeah, so Kendall Williams will be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. He's one of those guys who's at the upper level of the minor leagues, dealt with some injuries kind of going into this season, so he didn't join Great Lakes until late, and kind of got moved up pretty quickly to AA Tulsa. I think he dipped his feet in the water at AAA as well. Right now he's pitching in the Arizona Fall League, so he's getting some more experience. I think mostly due to the fact that he missed a lot early in the season. Definitely a very talented arm up there, and somebody who has experience starting pitching. It's got a really cool, unique pitch mix. Somebody worth to keep an eye on. I don't necessarily know if the Dodgers are going to add him, but he's a really good presence, kind of a little bit of he's got that tall, tattooed arms, kind of that long hair look. Somebody definitely to keep an eye on as he continues to progress in the system.
Yeah, he got one outing in AAA Oklahoma City, and that was at Albuquerque. The thing about Kendall Williams, he grew up in Olive Branch, Mississippi, went to IMG Academy there in Florida for his last 3 years of high school. And then he, I believe, was the Blue Jays. And he came over with Ryan Noda in that trade that sent, Moises Brito maybe over to the Dodgers, and Kendall Williams. And Ryan Noda came over, and I can't remember exactly who the Dodgers, it was a veteran pitcher or something like that. So the Dodgers got Kendall Williams, Ryan Noda, Moises Brito in that trade. Kendall Williams has been in the organization since. He has the split finger fastball. Probably, I'd say, sits 93, maybe 94. So, yes, he's 6'6", has pretty good extension, but the velo isn't, just unbelievable like we see with like Nick Frasso or somebody like that. I would be surprised if the Dodgers did protect him on the 40-man.
I probably would be too. Yeah, I think he's right, kind of on that fringe. But with the limited roster spots the Dodgers have, I think he's kind of on that border. But I will mention one thing, kind of that I found out, kind of just randomly. I know we're getting a little bit more to the Christmas season. If you need to send out a Christmas gift, I believe Kendall Williams is actually on Cameo. So you can purchase a video for him, send it to one of your buddies, and get a personalized message from him. So
nice.
Need a Christmas idea. That's one of them.
Got an interview with him, too. Hey, by the way, just got through talking to Patrick Copen, 2023 draft pick. Talked to Justin Robleski yesterday. Robo, I've got Eric Karros coming up tomorrow. Ryan Brown and that Vulcan change, got him coming up as well. Going to talk to Joe Vitrano. Kendall George, I've got him Wednesday, the Dodgers' #1 draft pick. Got him coming up Wednesday. And then I have Dylan Nishotka. He's going to talk all about the Rancho Cucamonga team. And then Dave Anderson's going to come on and talk all about the Great Lakes Loons. So a busy time. I told you, Austin, I've been super busy trying to navigate Oklahoma State's homecoming. I started a new O State Daily page, with that kind of similar to the Dodgers Daily, doing the same kind of updates and that kind of thing. Homecoming was this weekend. They'd have all these interviews going. And so, man, I super appreciate you kind of holding the fort down here.
Oh, no, I'm looking forward to a lot of those interviews. A lot of guys that either I've had the opportunity and privilege to get to know a little bit, Robo and DA, and Dylan Ashaka as well. And then some guys that sound like could be part of the 2024 Great Lakes Loons championship team. So,
yeah. By the way, the Dodgers added another young man in their organization in Copeland that can dunk. Add him to nickfrasso, both pitchers, by the way. So if you don't think pitchers are athletes, hey, the only two players in the Dodgers system I know for a fact can dunk are both pitchers. So there you go, Patrick Copen. So just a little sneak peek. I asked Copen. I had fun questions for both of them at the end of it. One of the questions for Copen was if you could be a superhero and have superpowers, what superpower would you choose? So I will leave that for you to find out whenever we have the interview. And for Justin Robleski, I asked him on the Loons team, hey, you have a lot of time in the locker room, in the clubhouse to just kind of hang out with the dudes, Okay, so if a arm wrestling tournament broke out, who would win the arm wrestling tournament of all the people in the Loons? Who would you guess, Austin?
Oh, boy.
I'm not going to tell you who he said, but I'm going to ask you what your guess would be.
Yeah.
An arm wrestling contest of all the Loons. Of course, they got Dalton Rushing and all these guys.
Oh, they have a bunch of really. I have no idea. I have no idea what he would say. No idea.
Who do you think it would be, though? Just throw it out there. I'm putting you on the spot, brother.
I know. I'm fully aware that you're putting me on the spot. Oh, jeez. Yeah. I got no clue. No clue.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll go with Louis Loon.
Louis Loon. There you go, Austin. Fantastic answer. Okay, that is awesome. Okay, next year is not the year to get project players to fix. It's the year to spend money and build a team. Mike and I think totally alike, no doubt about it. I think the Dodgers are in a system to where if you go on the trade route or the free agency route, it's for elite veteran players, not fringe veteran players, not reclamations. I think you can maybe keep a Jason Hayward, something like that. So you go get the elite players in the trade and or free agency mark, and then you bring up your prospects. I think that's where the Dodgers are at right now. I think that's the plan.
I think that absolutely has to be the plan. Look, you're dealing with two guys in Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman who are starting to enter towards the later periods of some of their prime years. And those are two guys that have anchored this team, both on pretty longer term deals. Freddie Freeman, not as much as Mookie Betts is. You want to take advantage of these guys when you have them in their system. And man, we look at the past couple of years with the early exits to both division rivals, and that is just unacceptable. And there has to be some sort of push to get a change to that, and some sort of push to maximize the careers that you have of Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman in Dodgers uniforms. There has to be a certain sense of desperation. Mm-hmm. That desperation shouldn't lead you to a place of making poor decisions that could be in the long-term negligence of the organization, but you have to make decisions to try to win and maximize the opportunity that you have now. Otherwise, we'll look back at Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and their time together with the Dodgers as a bunch of years of missed opportunity. That can't be what has to happen. So especially with the Dodgers payroll flexibility coming up this offseason, they have the opportunity to. And I think they're going to try to add some financial income to try to get in some of that high-end upside guys that aren't reclamation projects, that are a little bit more consistent to try to improve this club.
We obviously love all the comments in the lobby here in the chat. Hey, don't forget to go leave a comment on the regular video. That way, when this thing archives, it hits that algorithm with YouTube and it keeps getting suggested. It keeps getting seen more like the video did last week. That was just so wonderful. You guys did such a great job of leaving comments and leaving likes. And then also, I would like to, so go to the regular part of the video and do that, not just in the chat here. Also, I don't have the super chat set up yet, Austin, but I would like to remind everybody, if you would like to help Dodgers Daily, we do have a GoFundMe account. That GoFundMe account is on my dodgersdaily.net website. It's also in the link. It's also in the description of this video. The link to it is. You can find my GoFundMe account on any of my social media accounts. Just click that link. If you'd like to help, hey, if it's $1, if it's 50 cents, whatever it may be, that all helps Dodgers Daily as we continue to try to buy microphones, make our way to spring training, do stuff like that. So if you would oblige, or if you would like to, that option is there in the description. I should put it to you that way. Okay, yeah. So let's get back to some comments. That's a sweet hat, Loons hat, Austin. That is from Yasiel Puig.
I appreciate that, Yasiel Puig. This is one of the great collections that the Loons have. Obviously, you can buy this hat for your own at the Loon store. Just look it up. And it's a really sweet hat. I got a really nice collection that I've been able to add, and I try to feature those in a lot of these videos. So
Fernando says, I would get rid of everyone except for Mariachi Joe, which I don't think any of us would agree with that. What about trading him to a team that you don't think is going to be in contention next year, and then trying to get him back at the trade deadline?
That certainly is an outside of the box move. There would be a lot of moving parts to that. It would take a lot of trust in that team. One, to make sure that he is well taken care of while he is over there, and that they're not going to try to utilize all that they can and then trade him. If that's
the case, then you just don't go get him again. It's kind of my point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and certainly
that shields you from him not being healthy next year, and or just not being productive, in my opinion.
Certainly. And the other part of that is, who would take on a player like that if they know they're not going to be in contention next year? And who are the teams that you would try to target that you think might want to add some players, but you don't think they'll be buyers, they might be sellers at the trade deadline? That is some questions that I don't necessarily know what the answer is, or which teams would be even willing to trade. Not that Joe Kelly isn't an amazing talent, but we know that some teams around the game of baseball, especially when they aren't good, don't like to add a lot to payroll. So that might be a little bit tough to be able to navigate. Certainly is an outside the box thing that, if they were able to pull that off, would be the way to go.
Eat some of the salary then, because my point is, to me, to the Dodgers, the spot on the roster, if Joe Kelly's not going to be healthy next year, which is a very real possibility, but the problem is he's liable to not be on the 60-man. So, I mean, if he's on the 60-man, you can replace him with somebody else, right? But he's liable to be like on the 7-day or the 10-day or something like that, and take up that 40-man spot. So I'm going to say it again. I think, so eat some of the money for him, because the money is less valuable to the Dodgers than the 40-man roster spot is.
Yes. Yeah.
Am I off there?
No, not at all. And that certainly is going to come into play with some other guys like Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May. Technically, from, I believe, the end of the World Series, once that ends, until I believe the start of spring training, they actually have to be a part of that 40-man roster. They have to be two of the players on that 40-man roster. You can't just shelve them into the 60-day IL. Makes it a little bit complicated during that period to kind of limit some of those guys. So it's like some of the Rule 5 guys, you're dealing with two guys who will be on the 60-day IL, but you are going to protect unless you move on or trade those guys. Certainly a lot of moving pieces right now, which is going to lead to some tough decisions, either with not adding guys that should be added to the 40-man, or with some of these relievers particularly potentially moving on from them, or trying to negotiate a different deal for them.
Guys that are injured that you can't get off your 40-man, those guys make it so tough. It's not anybody's fault, don't get me wrong, but that's just a tough situation.
Which just means that they potentially have to add guys after the start of free agency. So with Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, I'm assuming that they're going to be added to the 60-day IL as soon as they are eligible to.
Yeah.
And that will open up 2 additional roster spots when that happens. And so you can get up to 40 man, including those guys, and then have 2 additional roster spots to potentially add some guys, perhaps at the end of spring training, somebody who's a non-roster invite makes the team. That opens up a spot for them.
Like a Johnrooney.
Absolutely, for a guy like that, or some guy that they potentially bring in outside the organization, like a Jason Hayward filled kind of that role this past season. That opens up the opportunity for them. So a lot of moving pieces during this time right now. You have 11 outright free agents. You have 6 guys who have the club option. And then you also have guys on the roster who potentially could be non-tendered. There's a lot of different moving pieces depending on what the Dodgers think is the best utilization of their 40 men, how many guys they are expecting to bring in, and who do they decide to draft, who do they decide to keep in the Rule 5 draft.
Yeah. I was talking more, not necessarily the 60-day guys like Gonsolin and May. I was talking more like some of the relievers like Daniel Hudson, Blake Trinan, Joe Kelly, that you're worried that they're going to be on the 7-day, the 10-day, and just constantly be in that situation to where you're not getting any use out of them next year, but yet you can't get them off the 40-man. Those are the types of guys that make it tough.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those guys who you don't necessarily know. Yeah, those guys, there's a reason why the Dodgers might not pick up those guys. I think that certainly is as most important reason to do with that.
Ela Shiva says Muncy is valuable. She says, I am shocked that you guys want to get rid of Muncy. Okay, to be fair, Austin doesn't. I'm the only one in the room that does. Austin made a pretty good argument that he actually wants to keep Muncy. He thinks Muncy. He agrees with you, Ela Shiva.
Yes, yeah, and I'll stick to that.
Yeah, Yasiel Puig, that funky Muncy. Craig says need to keep Hunter and get rid of Barnes. Yeah, we've had that conversation many different times. Adam Kolarek, Yasiel Puig said Adam Kolarek, wonderful guy, man. I got a chance to talk to him in AAA Oklahoma City. Had a chance to interview him. He was a great interview. Super classy dude. I think he's from Illinois, that left-handed, that kind of submariner from the left side. Okay, Jay, welcome, Jay. Thank you for joining. He says, will Bush play for the Dodgers or be traded, in your opinion? Sorry if you've already discussed. No, even if we have, don't ever say sorry. We'll go back over that. I do not think Michael Bush will be traded.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that boat right now, unless it's for
they would have
somebody...
traded him last year, I think, if they could have.
Yeah,
or one
and I think they're going to find some sort of place for him. You're talking about opportunities, perhaps in the middle infield or the second base or third base, depending on what the availability is. Let's assume that Max Muncy is playing third base. That there's an opportunity there for second base. Have Mookie Betts be able to move back to the outfield, with David Peralta, Jason Hayward, some of those guys moving on. There's going to be opportunities for Michael Bush. I think they see. It's hard to ignore what Michael Bush has done in the minor leagues. In fact, it's almost impossible to see just how consistent and well above average of a hitter he has been to just be able to just continue to keep him down there. There has to be opportunities for him to play, unless you are so against the idea of Michael Bush playing in Los Angeles. Now would be the opportunity to trade him for some of that star and starting pitching. I would expect to see him in the Dodgers. I think the opportunity is going to be there for him to play, and I think they expect him to rise up to that occasion. But I could see him potentially being a part of that trade package if they see the upside of what they could be getting. But I think Michael Bush is too good not to give him an opportunity.
Jose Ramos?
So Jose Ramos is eligible once again to add to the Rule 5 drafters discussion last offseason.
Injured a good part of this year.
What was that? He
was injured a good part of this year.
Yes. Did cut down on the strikeouts a little bit. Still working on trying to get those under control. Went from 32% to 27%, which is certainly in the right direction. Some of the power that was there in Great Lakes disappeared a little bit in Tulsa, or at least not to the degree that it was. I don't necessarily expect him to be added to the 40-man. I think the tools are certainly there for a potential superstar like player. You're talking about that rocket arm, that amazing power. I think right now with him, I think he still is going to take some time to touch up on some of the skills that he has. And I think the Dodgers can't at this point necessarily afford to keep him on the 40-man roster. So I think with him, I think he's one of those guys where they might take the chance. And if another team picks him up, I would expect him to kind of run with that.
I would be shocked if he didn't get picked up.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
He's
just
certainly
from a potential perspective. And hey, I said last year he's not going to get taken. I was one of the very few, if you'll remember, Austin.
Yes.
I almost guaranteed he wasn't going to get taken. And the reason was I just didn't see anybody taking that chance to put a guy on there 26 straight from high A ball with a 30 whatever percent strikeout rate that he had last year at the high A level. So I did not think there was any chance he would get taken last year. I think this year, if you gave it a percentage, I'd say there's probably 60% chance he gets taken.
I think if you're a team that is young, let's
like
say
a younger team that's building, good point.
Let's say if you're a team like Oakland took a guy like a Ryan Noda. He was more of a veteran guy, had a lot of that plate discipline, just was waiting for an opportunity. But let's say that you're a team like them, or a team like Kansas City or Colorado that's looking for a lot of that potential upside, that can have some time to work with some of this talent. Adding a guy like Jose Ramos, who has some of the tools that you're looking for in the game, with that rocket arm, with that power, with a little bit of speed, that can play multiple positions in the outfield. You have an opportunity to add a guy like that. I think would be something that would be very intriguing for a team like that. And for a guy like Jose Ramos, would be absolutely amazing to see him showcase his skills. I know we saw him be able to showcase his skills for Panama in the World Baseball Classic this past season. So if he is not protected, which I don't know if the Dodgers are going to be able to protect him, they certainly could because of the talent that he has. If they don't and another team picks him up, I would be so excited to see what he's going to be able to do, because he's going to hit a bomb that's going to go really far, and he's going to do some really cool, unique stuff for that team.
It's all going to be depending on if they think James Outman and or Johnny DeLuca is the starting center fielder of the future for the Dodgers, and if they think the other one's the starting left fielder. Because if they think DeLuca and James Outman are the two starters for years to come, then you got guys behind him like Damon Keith, and then you have guys like Ryanward, Drew Avens. That makes him at that point, a guy that if you did lose him, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It's not something you enjoy, obviously. So I think that's all depends on how the Dodgers view James Outman and Johnny DeLuca at this point.
Yeah, I think with both of those guys, obviously James Outman has been in the major leagues, will continue to be in the major leagues. Johnny DeLuca, I think, deserves that opportunity. You're still looking at a guy on the 40-man. Andy Pages is still there. He's still going to need probably some development just to get him reacclimated, AAA level. So I don't know necessarily if you want to keep two of those guys that you keep down there, especially since you have some depth with guys that we're going to be talking about today, and Drew Avens and Ryanward, that are a little bit more closer to being ready at the major league level. I think Jose Ramos has that insane upside, insane tools. I don't necessarily know if the Dodgers, in the position that they are right now, and with the spots that they need to add, and with the talent they're looking to add this offseason, will have the space to add him. Could certainly be wrong about that, though, and we can see just how valued he is within this organization, which we know how valued he is, just depending on what their strategy is this offseason.
Damno says, jokes aside, my money is on either Cop or Rushing. Okay, neither one of those are Rule 5 eligible this year. Johnny Dukes will be definitely winning an arm wrestling contest. Yeah, Frankie says he's dropping by to say, what's up to Casey and Austin? Got to go change the oil in my car. Keep up the great work, Dodgers dogs. All right, very good, Frankie. I changed the oil on my 1997 Dodge Ram myself, so it takes me about 15 minutes. Mike, we're going to have a show that's going to be all dedicated to all of the Dodgers prospects that are eligible for the Rule 5 that's going to be, what would you say, Austin, here in about a week or so, maybe? Week and a half?
Yeah, well, the deadline to add them is the 14th, so it
Yeah.
probably would have to be within the next week or so. What could be the next stream that we do? We could be something that we look into all of those, or in a video, depending on what the format is going to be easiest for us to be able to maneuver.
Rude Dog, welcome. He says, do you think by just letting Peralta, Hayward, Hernandez, Wong, Barnes, and Rosario go, you could create enough room for these budding prospects?
I think there's certainly going to be opportunities with a lot of, there's going to be spaces that open up. If you even, so let's say that all of the free agents, which there might be some that you resign, and all of the different club options go down. That is 17 players in total. Right now you have 51 on the 40-man roster. That gets you down to 34. You have some maneuvering that you could potentially do on the fringes of the guys who are still eligible on there as well. And so you could get it down to closer to the 30-ish range. I think that gives you some opportunity to add some of these names. But even with that, I mean, you still want to add guys during the offseason. I think we are in agreement that this roster needs some additional talent to add to it, just to put it over the top. We want this team to kind of go to the World Series. We're looking for some of that, potentially adding some of that high-end upside talent. I think some of those subtractions certainly help. You have to replace those with some people, either from the minor league system or from outside the organization. This roster will be crunched, and I think with that is some of the concern that we are seeing because of the roster crunch, just depending on how the Dodgers want to handle that situation.
Daryl Jackson says, Daryl, good evening. Thank you for joining. Daryl always has wonderful comments on Dodgers Daily and all different platforms of social media. I think they need a balance between the veterans and young guys, no doubt about it. Elias Shiva, will JD Martinez be back? We will not know that until we know what the Dodgers do with Shohei Ohtani.
Yes, they will not both be on the same roster next season.
Some guys in high A should be in double A. Yeah. Well, I think honestly, double A Tulsa Drillers, they hemorrhaged so bad last year with all of and it was only because they promoted all of their pitching. And so, and then high A just had such a wonderful team. You got to see it, Austin. It's almost like a college environment. I think they kept some of those guys in high A because that team was so special, and didn't move them up to double A because they knew the Loons were going to be in a really cool playoff run. And so they wanted all of that team to be together for that playoff run instead of going up to a Tulsa team that wasn't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the Dodgers certainly value that aspect of winning inside
at least last
of their
year with that
organization.
team, yeah.
Yes, especially, and you had 3 of the Dodgers minor league affiliates be able to reach the playoffs. I think they wanted to get a lot of those guys some of that experience inside of the playoffs. So instead of moving them up to Tulsa, a lot of those guys stayed with Great Lakes, even if they're showing above and beyond some of their capabilities, because they wanted to get some of that experience and because they want them to continue to instill that culture of winning even when they're at the lower levels. I think that's something they very much value.
Will the Dodgers keep Yarbrough? I don't think so.
He is actually not a free agent. He actually could be a part of this roster next season. I think he arbitration eligible, one of his final years of arbitration. Depending on if they want to keep that or not tender him, that is going to be the decisions that that's going to be a decision that the Dodgers could make. Right now, just because they could tender him a contract, I'm leaning potentially toward yes, although I would not be shocked if they said no to that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so I'm kind of betting into that. Hey, guys like that, I want either elite veteran type guys or I want the rookies. I don't want anything in between. That's just my mood right now. Hey, that may be still some hangover from the way that this season ended, so take that with a grain of salt. But again, hey, if you go out in the trade market, either get an elite veteran or don't get one at all and use your rookies. One of the two. Don't go out and get those, no offense to the guy, but don't go get a Lance Lynn and have him take up a spot on the 40-man that a prospect could use that's probably more talented than him at this point in his career. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And I think that's totally fair. I think you can get a lot of those type of talents on non-roster invites or minor league deals and have that be the depth that you have. I think that's the biggest concern is the depth that you have in the organization. You can add talent different ways. We saw that with the Oklahoma City roster this past season.
Fernando says, will Landon Knack ever be in a Dodger uniform? Do you think he'll be traded? Looks like he's been ready for some time. He's been fighting injury. He finished this 2023 season on the IL. He spent almost, all of 22 on the IL. That's been his problem. It hasn't been that the Dodgers have just kind of thumbed their nose down at him. It's, of course, they kind of did in the sense that he got promoted over. I actually asked him that question. Was that a motivating factor for you? Did you feel like you were kind of getting overlooked coming into 2023? He point blank answered the question and said, yes, I came into 2023 feeling like I wanted to remind Dodgers fans, oh, yeah, hey, Landon Knack can still pitch, right? So he did have that chip on his shoulder, but then again finished 2023 on the IL. So that's been his problem.
Yep. Yeah. No, and I think the Dodgers see the upside that he has. So I think he's one that I at least envision him being an easy add to the 40-man. Once you're added to the 40-man, you're potentially a couple injuries away from being moved up to the major league roster. So excited to see what happens with him.
Yeah, Yasiel Puig asked, how did Tulsa miss the playoffs? Well, they were the best team in baseball till now. I saw them in Wichita about the first week of June. They were the best rotation in baseball. They were the best team in, I say baseball, in the Double-A baseball. They were the best team in Double-A baseball, and then boom, that's when they started losing all their pitchers. They all started getting promoted. Emmett Sheehan, nickfrasso, riverryan got promoted up. I mean, all of them got promoted up. So, and then they lost Ybit, Vivas, Eddie's Leonard. They lost Eddie's Leonard, their starting shortstop. Carson Taylor got hurt. Jose Ramos got hurt. Scott Hennessy, their manager, got cancer and missed like 3 or 4 months of the season. So it was just, honestly, I mean, I like the positive side of things. It was a season to forget if you're the Drillers.
Yeah, I know. All the struggle kind of showed up. You mentioned towards the beginning of June. I was there in Springfield, Missouri, kind of around that time. Yeah. So for the Tulsa Drillers, I'll take the blame for that.
Okay. All right. So little Yainer Fernandez, one of my favorite players, little gritty dude. Yes. Okay. Rule 5 eligible this year?
Yes, he is Rule 5 eligible. He's kind of one of those. I don't necessarily know if another team would pick him up. He's incredibly talented. He's versatile. He can play catcher. He does a good job at that, but he plays in the infield as well, not just first base. You see a lot of catcher first base guys. He plays second base. He's extremely versatile guy. Not one of those guys that's necessarily there to hit bombs. He's there to hit singles and doubles. He's there to add a little bit of a different element to the game. Out in the Arizona Fall League right now, certainly has a ton of potential. I don't think he is ready to make that step from high A to the major leagues right now, which is why I think the Dodgers probably don't protect him, because I don't think they envision some other team adding him to that. Extremely talented, one of the nicest individuals that you will meet across all of baseball. Certainly a player to watch out for going forward.
Michael, good evening. Michael Carrillo joins. I don't think Hayward is coming back, he says.
Yeah, I mean, he is a free agent. They got some of the upside. They were able to help him unlock some of the things. If Jason Hayward is looking for a multi-year deal, I don't think the Dodgers pick up on that. Yeah, so I think it depends on what he wants.
Mike says, just for your information, Yang Young Suk has checked into Camelback Ranch today. Wayne, good evening, Wayne. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you join each week. Clayton Kershaw needs to retire, or the Dodgers need to retire him. I brought up Rushing and Cobb for the arm wrestling thing. Definitely do not and never want them to be Rule 5 eligible. Apologies for the confusion. Oh, no confusion there. Okay, Does Emmett Sheehan get used as a trade piece, or the Dodgers keep him? I've made the comment that I think the only prospect that it's off limits is Bobby Miller. You make the right offer, I think everybody else could be traded.
Yes, I think that is the right approach. Now, the right offer probably costs quite a bit. Yes. But I don't think you can go into the mindset of all of these guys.
It's going to take a Corbin Burns, somebody like that.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to take somebody of extreme talent, and depending on the length, depending on the contract that they have, a lot of moving details. But I think a lot of these guys, almost all of these guys, aren't untouchable. I think there's a certain price that has to be met, dependent for each of these guys. We think they're extremely valuable, but they're not untouchable.
Please don't think when I say that I'm implying the Dodgers are going to go out and actively seek to trade Emmett Sheehan. They're not going to do that. They're totally happy with. I mean, he's awesome. The dude has an elite fastball with that ride and run. All I'm trying to say is, hey, if somebody wants him bad enough and they want to give up, say, a proven veteran with the same type of stuff that Sheehan has, but also has a proven veteran track record, that's when the Dodgers would start listening. And the only person that they would just say, hey, forget it, we're not even answering the telephone, would be Bobby Miller in that situation. Okay, Edith Shiva says, I assume Barnes will be back. This is what I've seen in Dodgers rumors. Comments on that?
Yeah, no, he has $3 million, something around that nature, contract for next season. Certainly wouldn't be the most expensive thing to potentially get rid of, but I think right now he is scheduled to be the backup catcher again. You can have your certain opinions on that. He does have a contract for next season, though, and so if you wanted to move on for him, you would have to trade him. Don't know what the opportunities are there.
Or DFA.
Or you would have to release him and just eat that cap.
Yeah, which wouldn't be that big of a deal. The $3 million wouldn't. So, I mean, it would be more of just a sentimental thing. Austin Barnes is awesome. He's a Dodger. I mean,
yes.
He caught the last pitch of the 2020 World Series. Is that a guy you want to DFA?
Not necessarily.
It would be tough.
Yes, it would be tough.
It would be real tough. And hey, I'm one who likes to remove the emotions, trust me. But that one would be really, really tough. Andy Pages is a tough one. I think in any other circumstance, first of all, shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Those are tough, man. I don't think he'll be protected from that perspective alone. If he was healthy, I think he may have made the major leagues last year.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult deal. If you think Andy Pages is going to be healthy moving forward, it's a slam dunk. You protect him. But I do know the Dodgers are very leery of shoulders.
Yeah, so Andy Pages actually is already on the 40-man roster
he is.
already.
Okay. Yeah.
So you don't need to worry about him. It's just that concern of when he's going to make his major league debut and how he's going to react to that injury. So he's already
Good
protected,
catch.
And the only way that the Dodgers would get rid of him if there's some sort of trade. I mentioned that he's a player for Dodgers fans to watch out and not forget about. You talked about Landon Knack kind of being overlooked after the previous season going into this season. I think Andy Pages is one of those guys where don't overlook the talent that he has.
Yeah, so we got a new pit bull a couple months ago, about 3 months ago, and his name is Barnard, okay? And so his nickname, we were trying to come up with, you call your dog your nicknames or whatever, and I went with the Barnesy route, and I made a mistake, and I mentioned to my wife, hey, yeah, Barnesy's my favorite Dodger, and she's like, no, we're not doing that. It's got to be something else, so we call him Barney instead. So this is my Barney boy right here that's down here to my right. I don't know, he might jump up and get, I know one of my pitch, Vivian, she got on the show last Friday with Coach Holt, I think it was. So who knows? One of my Dodgers dogs might jump up at any time. I won't stop them if they do that. So yeah, Austin Barnes is one of my favorite players. Okay, so Andy Pages, he is on the 40-man. So good catch there, Austin. I'm glad you caught that. Diegocartaya, does he still have trade value? Oh, absolutely. You can get a hell of a lot of return for Diegocartaya. Trust me. He's not the first superstar minor leaguer to have a bad season in the minor leagues. This actually is more common than you think. I promise you, he could get a hell of a lot of return right now.
Yes, he absolutely could. The talent is overwhelmingly still there.
And the work ethic, the type of person he is, he has the whole package.
Yes, no, he is a complete package, not just as a baseball player, but as a human being as well. Immense talent, and we've seen that in the past. Obviously, this past season, he struggled quite a bit. I think with that, right now, he still has immense value to any sort of team. If they decide to package him in some type of trade, he would get back a lot.
You could just by saying he's a great defensive player. I've seen him do his extra work, throwing the ball down to second base, just from that perspective, and tell him to hit, I think he could easily hit 250 and hit some home runs. But yeah, I think he's going to be a repeat in AA. If he has a good season, maybe make AAA towards the end of the year. I don't think in any way, shape, or form teams would hesitate to pick up on a diegocartaya if they could get him right now. Plus, it's there. So kind of like the Dodgers did with Jason Hayward, you would think, well, hey, we see this in him. We see that in him. Like to me, he lifts his hands and he swings with a negative bat angle, which to me blocks everything off and makes it where you get jammed and hit the ball to right field. So you take it, a scout like Dave Holliday that I sat with several different times in Tulsa. He's a scout for the Phillies, and he sits there, kind of like I do, and he goes, well, he lifts his hands and he has a negative bat angle. So what if we got a hold of this guy, we flattened the path of his hands and had him lead with the barrel a little bit better? Now what do you have? So trust me, you have guys up and down. I sat with the Royals guys that do all that kind of stuff too, that see the immense talent that he has, that think, hey, if we'll just unlock this one little thing with him, bingo. Now we have the diegocartaya that everybody wants. So I think definitely you could get some. I don't think hunterfeduccia will be protected. I really don't, because I think you have Austin Barnes. Will Dodgers keep Rojas? He was awesome defensively, no doubt about it. I really enjoy watching Rojas. I think that's going to be the last question before we head to our prospect talk.
Yeah, so I believe Miguel Rojas does have I think he signed originally a 2-year deal back when he was with Miami. So I think he actually will be a part of that Dodgers roster for about $5 million or so, which is a reasonable price for him depending on what they decide to use, the role that he decides. Obviously, his role got changed this past season, specifically because of the injury to Gavin Lux. So with him for $5 million, I think you use him in that utility role, kind of like what he was intended to be. So unless the Dodgers non-tender him, which I don't necessarily expect to happen at all, I think he's going to continue to play a role on this Dodgers team moving forward.
Let's get to Drew Avens.
Sounds good.
Can you see that, Austin?
I cannot quite yet, but I'll be able to see it.
You're probably seeing it start. You see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. Let's get to it. First of all, Drew Avens. Okay, this is a young man that just from a style of play, I absolutely love what you're going to see. You're seeing part of his 50-game hit streak last year. I love how he just stays inside the ball. Let me back that up just a touch and just show you how short of a swing this guy has. Watch it right here as he approaches the ball. Okay, we're going to, if I can. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go watch here. Okay.
Just a heads up, Casey. It looks like the chat might not be able to quite see that. Looks like it's in my frame right now.
Okay, so.
Just as a heads up.
Okay, no, that's perfect. Okay, so let me do that. That's probably it right there, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right, so this is Drew Avens. Look how short this swing is. First thing I want you to notice is a lot of times the first move for guys that like to launch and get the ball in the air is that they like to tuck this back elbow, and then they like to take the top of this barrel back towards the catcher. Guys with short swings, they take their hands forward here, and they make more of a direct path to the baseball. So see how Drew Avens came straight to that baseball, how quick that swing is, how direct of a path that is to the baseball. That is, I'm not saying every hitter in the Dodgers organization, but there's Michael Busch there. That's the style of hitter that I think the Dodgers need 3 or 4 of in their lineup.
Yeah, no, and Drew Avens is one of those different style of players that the Dodgers have in their system, kind of that unique style, can hit for average. There's a lot of those gritty type things around the game. It's been an incredibly valuable and leader piece to this Oklahoma City team for a couple of years now. Certainly a lot of aspects to like about his game. I know you've had the opportunity to see him a lot more than I have. Certainly a ton of talent there.
So this is a sequence to where he got on. I know I'm going back and forth here. That's actually Luke Williams. I had a chance to talk to him. Drew Avens got on with a base hit bunt, and then he stole second base. He moved to third base on a wild pitch that you're seeing here that he read out of the dirt, got to third base, and then he scored So he got on, he got over 3 different bases, ended up with 3 stolen bases there. So here's Drew Avens. Check that out. This is another part of his game. He actually extended his 50-game hit streak on back-to-back nights with bunt base hits. Gotta love that.
Yeah, no, and I think that goes to
a
little bit of the
Both sides.
style. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes a little bit to the style of the game that we're seeing particularly play out for a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks this season. They play with a little bit more of that speed, that athleticism that the game is really trying to bring out. And I think Drew Avens kind of highlights some of those features of the game, as opposed to where the game has kind of gone recently with a little bit of the overwhelming power, hit for more home runs. I think Drew Avens just adds something a little bit unique and different, which if you mix some of those types of talents together, can really help bolster your team. And he certainly was a huge part of that extremely successful Pacific Coast League winning champions Oklahoma City Dodgers team this past season.
Okay, is this showing up? Yeah, I see it right there. It's showing up good. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, you saw Drew Avens. He bunted for a base hit, 50-game hit streak, had 40 stolen bases last year. You saw him use the big part of the field. There you saw him take a curveball. Actually, when it's, if it's a right-hander throwing to a lefty going with the pitch, you actually pull the curveball. If it's a lefty coming to a righty, you actually pull that. So you saw him go at the pitch right there. On a breaking pitch, you saw him use the big part of the field. There you see him just hit about a 3-hopper up the middle, just making sure that he makes contact and getting on base and just creating havoc. So, just that guy that's trying to find maybe the middle of the ball to the top of the ball. There's Juan Apodaca, who, by the way, was the Tulsa Drillers manager this year. And don't think that he can't turn on the ball. He can hit the ball into the gaps like you saw there. He can hit home runs. I think he had 13. Look at him run. Look at that speed.
Yeah, no, he is a baseball player. I think that's one of the best things to describe him. He does a lot of things around the game really well. He's extremely well respected too.
And he can do that too.
Yes.
He has 20 home runs in the last 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at him during the Pacific Coast League when they're playing the Round Rock Express too towards the end of the season, just him being able to go off in some of those big moments and stuff too. Drew Avens is a really good talent that often gets overlooked in this Dodgers system. I think we at Dodgers Daily, especially you, Casey, have really tried to highlight the talent that he has.
Just look how quiet he is. I mean, there's just no wasted movement to his swing, which allows him to see the ball. Look how well he sees that baseball. You can just tell he just tracks that ball because he's not trying to lift. See how deep he hits that ball?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's another deep one right there. He hit the ball the other way, and he actually got, I believe it was a double on that hit. Here's him again. He got fisted on that pitch, letting the ball get deep, and he was strong enough to just bring his hands inside the ball, inside out that thing to left center. Watch him get a little bit fisted here, inside out that ball, take that thing to left field. That tells you right there he is going to be a very, very good 2-strike hitter.
Yeah, and that's something that we saw a lot from this past season. You look at some of the numbers, some of the distribution of where he hit the ball. He hit the ball 42% of the time to the opposite field, which is the most of what all of the different percentages are. Pull, drawing up to center, which is something that most hitters in the games, particularly today, don't do. He's able to hit it to the opposite field, which there's certainly a lot of instances where that is so incredibly valuable, and being able to take an extra base like you saw right there, being able to steal those 90 bases.
He just tagged up from first to second on a routine fly ball to left field.
Yes, that is so incredibly valuable, stealing that extra 90 feet, particularly in games like postseason games or any game throughout the regular season that's tight. Being able to do those small little things well, which a guy like Drew Avens does and puts incredible detail to do those small details right, is so incredibly important, so incredibly valuable to a team. So the grittiness that he has, just the talent that he has as well, and being the baseball player that he is, makes him a really unique person, really unique player within this organization that deserves a lot of credit for what he's done and a lot of excitement for what he can do going forward.
So you just saw him get on base with a jam shot to left field with 2 strikes. You saw him tag up and make it to second base on a routine fly ball to left field. You saw him advance on a wild pitch and then tag up on a pretty shallow fly ball to left field. Now you're watching him bunt, both a push bunt to third base and a pull bunt to the first base side. Here you see him using the big part of the field. I see this time and time and time again with Drew Avens. I love this guy's game.
Yeah, it is. It is certainly a fun style of play, one that we don't get to see a whole lot, particularly at the big league club. I think with some of the new rules that are put into place, I think you could see some of this style of play kind of come back a little bit, which is certainly exciting because this style of play, the talent that he has, certainly should be highlighted at the big league level.
So I did the grittiest player. I messaged out every player that I knew. Hey, if you don't mind, do you mind voting who for you think is the grittiest player in the Dodgers organization? He easily won from all of his peers in the organization as being the absolute grittiest player in the entire organization. If you talk to anybody back in Southeast Louisiana, they just absolutely love the guy. They just go crazy every time he does something good. There is just nothing not to like about this guy. The Damino says, I blinked when he hit that ball in the gap and he was already at third base. That dude can run. Yeah, that triple that you saw just a minute ago, that thing will catch your eye, no doubt about it. Yasiel Puig, hey, good comp. How about he reminds him of Dave Roberts and Dave Roberts playing. That is a really good comp.
Yeah, that is certainly a really good
run right here.
Watch really good compliment. Yeah, and by the time I can't even finish the sentence with him already at third base right now. So a lot of speed, he's really good. And certainly that list that you highlighted last year from a lot of the players just speaks to how well respected he is and the style of game that he has is. You
want to know how fast he is? Look at Barbary. Hey, that's a triple, and Barbary is not even worried about it, Travis. He's like, oh, he's got this easy. He's just saying, hey, you got it, no problem. That's Josh, Jace or Josh. Both of them went to Texas Tech, actually playing in the World Series right now for the Texas Rangers. That was him right there. Then you see him hitting a home run. Avens is like Corbin Carroll from the D-backs, exactly. 100%. Hey, as a matter of fact, I was talking to Coach Holt. Coach Holt is good friends with both Lefty and Dave Burrows, who are the coaches at Cali County. And he also coaches with a guy named Marty Lees at Stillwater. Now, Marty Lees was the head coach at Washington State University, about 6 or 7 years ago. Okay, and Marty Lees actually recruited Corbin Carroll out of Southern California. And Corbin Carroll was going to go to Washington State until UCLA got involved. And then once UCLA got involved, being a SoCal boy, obviously he went to UCLA. But Marty Lee's comment on Corbin Carroll is, hey, he's just this little dude, and you watch him play, then it seems like everything he hits goes out of the yard. That's, hey, that's a very good comp with Drew Avens. It just seems like everything he does just works out very well. Yeah, Tim Motley says, Dino would be putting the brakes on him. I think that's a philosophy that needs to change.
Yeah. If he's running the bases, you send him almost every single time and expect him to get that extra 90 feet.
Okay, my man Ryan Ward right here, man. I love this guy. As a matter of fact, in 2022, he until he got hurt in August. As of about August 6th, he was hitting about 290, and he was leading the entire organization in home runs. Then he got hurt and never really recovered from that. This dude in high school, his senior year, struck out one time total. He is the only Bryant Bulldog in the history of that school to hit over 400 for a single season. Let's go ahead and break that swing down if you don't mind. I'm going to stop that and see if I can back that up about 10 seconds and see if we can't stop Ryan Ward's swing and get it going again. I don't know exactly what's happening here. Well, we'll back up the next one. Okay, here we go, right there. Okay, so see how he has both eyes on the ball? I love that. This is the typical stretch I was talking about earlier, that guys that are trying to get lift, See how he points that knob back to the catcher? That is very, very typical. What that is that's actually called walking your hands away from your body, because as you point that knob, your hands are actually going back as your body goes forward. That creates that kind of rubber band stretch. So right there, you see ryanward, look how balanced. I'm going to back it up one more time and see if we can't get a little bit better look on that ryanward. He comes through, his hands come through so flat. I don't think I'm going to because this video is so long. Right there, okay. I wasn't able to do it, but his hands come through very flat, so he has the ability, okay, only hitter in Bryant history to hit over 400. The next season, he hit 386, and he didn't strike out hardly at all. The Dodgers added a little bit north and south to his swing, so he's striking out more, but I think at any time, if he wanted to pivot and go back to being a guy that's just a low line drive, contact type hitter, I think he can do that, but he has hit a bunch of home runs in the last couple of years. He's just trying to put it all together, the mix between the power and the average. He is one of my favorite young hitters in all of minor league baseball.
Yeah, no, so I had the opportunity to see him in 2021. It was him and Andy Pages in the outfield, and Ryanward was right up there in that home run race with him and Pages, which just shows you just how powerful of a hitter Ryanward is. I think he's one of those where, he hits for almost 30 home runs. You look at him, 2021, 27, 2022, 28. Last year went down a little bit to 21, but still, you talk about that power that this guy has, which could be some of the swing adjustments that he made, leads to a little bit more strikeouts, which you talked about some of the versatility that he can have, just depending on what the Dodgers and what he feels like would be best for him. He's incredibly talented as a hitter. He's got a little bit of plate discipline in him as well, but that power that he has that kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. He's a really fun ball player to watch and be able to see his journey continue to progress, continue to grow. Still got some things that he's working on, I'm sure. But he's very talented and somebody who, like Drew Avens, is a very gritty and well-respected player within this organization.
Matter of fact, in the offseason, he went to Millbury, Massachusetts. Easy for me to say. And he would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Him and his dad would go work out. He would come home. He would go work 8 hours a day after he got off work. Then he would go do all of his baseball activities, get home about 6 o'clock. He'd go to bed and do it all again. That was his off season last year. After I talked to him, Yasiel Puig says Ryanward is a Cole Calhoun comp. Interesting you say that because the Dodgers in about June actually picked up Cole Calhoun, and Cole Calhoun and Ryanward were on the same team and in the same outfield. And yes, they do look a lot alike, but I've seen Cole Calhoun a lot. He's been with Salt Lake City a bunch when he was with the Angels, and I've seen him a million different times in Oklahoma City and when Oklahoma City plays Salt Lake. I will say this, Ryanward, in my opinion, has a tremendously better hit tool in the sense that I think he has the ability to actually hit the ball more than Cole Calhoun did. Cole Calhoun had so much swing and miss as he was coming up. I think Ryanward, based on how he wants to approach things, has the ability to put the ball in play quite a bit more than Cole Calhoun has.
Yeah, no, you're talking about Ryanward, some of those guys, one of these guys who historically has been in the kind of 22%-ish range as far as strikeout percentage. I think with his hit tool, depending on what he wants to do, that balance between adding power and striking out could potentially lower that, depending on what he's wanting to do, what the Dodgers want to do. You see that powerful arm that he has out in the outfield.
It's a good arm. It's not great or anything. He's getting better defensively.
Yes, he's able to make some of the plays that he's needed to. Not overwhelming, not a Pages or Jose Ramos. He's capable enough out there. But with him, obviously, there's a lot of power that he's been able to unlock in a lot of his swings. So it's about continuing to find that progression, continuing to find what works best for him, and watch him continue to grow. As in that instance, I actually probably was there at that game.
What I liked about that swing, let me back that up. If you notice this tells you just how good a guy's hands are eye-hand coordination. Watch how he's not on time. Right there. See how he's out front and he still hits this for a home run? And let me explain something here. I was listening to Perry Keith talk. Not Perry Keith. He's the Connors coach. Perry Husband. And he was explaining, he's worked with several major leaguers and actually resurrected their career, that major leaguers are only perfectly on time like 5% of the time. Ever. 5%. So he was explaining to these guys, hey, you work all this these systems to where you have to be perfectly on time to hit the ball. He said hitting's not about being on time. It's about how do you hit when you're not on time. And so the guys that can actually hit the ball when they're not on time and still hit the ball hard, those are the ones that actually make it. Ryanward that you saw right there, a little bit out front. You saw him a little bit late on that last one, shoot to the left field. Ryanward is one of the best hitters I've seen. Watch this, a little bit late right here, and still was able to hit that ball to left field. That ball was really deep for a professional. He's able to hit the ball very hard even when he's not on time.
Yeah, no, that just shows some of the versatility that he has as a professional hitter, being able to do a wide variety of different stuff, not exclusively power, but kind of has a little bit more of a well-rounded swing, and he's able to implement a bunch of different stuff depending on what the situation is. He is a very good baseball player, and there's a reason why he is part of the upper level of the Dodgers minor league organization, is because of how talented of an individual that he is.
Yeah, let me throw this at you too, and he was prioritized over Andy Pages. Mm-hmm. In the sense that he got promoted to AAA Oklahoma City at the beginning of the year over Andy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, and that speaks to how highly they think of Ryanward. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I love this young man. I think at the major league level, he could be a 25 home run guy, hit about 260, and have about a 22% strikeout rate. Now, that's on a good year. I think top end, that's where he could be.
Yeah, no, certainly.
Am I off there? Am I a little bit too high on him?
I don't think so. I think you see kind of the tools that he has. I think that it's kind of some of the upside that we see that can translate to the major league level. Obviously, that transition from AAA to the major league is really tough. But with a guy like Wardo, he certainly has the talent and the capability to make those adjustments and has a ceiling to be able to do that.
Look at that swing. That's a big boy hack right there, Austin.
Yes, as we transition to one of the players currently on the Dodgers 40-man roster, has been for a couple of years, has not had the opportunity to showcase his skills yet at the major league level, but unless he is traded, he will have the opportunity to showcase his skills. This is Jorbitvivas right here.
Started the year off with a 13-game hit streak, and they were actually playing him at third base quite a bit to begin the season. So I definitely think, hey, one of the big questions is who is the next third baseman. I think they thought might be Miguel Vargas, but then they moved him to second base, and then they tried Vivas at third. He did fine over there. I mean, it wasn't like terrible or anything. Moved a lot more back towards second base towards the end of the season. This is a guy, I'm going to rewind that to that very first cut and go back to that. Okay, watch this right here. Okay, that's his helmet moving off, but Eddie Days told me a long time ago, look where his head's at right here, Austin. If you make a triangle right here, make the body a triangle. Here is the two bottom points. There is the top point at the top. Make that a triangle. Although he took a very vicious swing, right? Look where his head's still at. His head is still in the middle of his body. So he is able to swing extremely violently without moving his head. Those types of guys are very, very difficult to find because you can't teach that. That's just flexibility in his body. That is simply just, just strength. And so the way that he is able to really be vicious with his swing while still being under control of his head, that's elite.
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of different reasons why following the 2021 Major League Baseball season, the Dodgers decided to add Vivas to the 40-man roster, even though they knew he was still a couple of years away. Some of this is some of the things that they see behind the scenes, some of the reasons why he has been so effective. And then you look at some of the numbers. Vivas has consistently been well above league average in his hitting throughout his minor league career. You're talking about WRC pluses, which is one of the more advanced statistical analysis or statistical numbers to this, well above 120 usually, right around kind of that range consistently. You're talking about his approach to the plate. He's one of those guys that has some of that sneaky pop to him. But I think one of the things that I like best about him is he is so unique in that he walks just about as much as he strikes out, if not more, most seasons.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. As vicious as his swing is, that's because his head stays still.
Absolutely, which allows him to be able to have some of that contact, allows him to be able to consistently put the ball in play, and also allow with his plate discipline too. You're talking about a guy that has above league average walking while drastically well below league average striking out. That alone is going to establish a high floor as a hitter, because some of the batted ball kind of can vary to where you're going to have stretches where they're going to be really good, but you're going to be consistently put the ball in play. And with a guy like Vivas, even though he's not necessarily the biggest guy, he's strong enough to where he can get 10 to 15 home runs in a season. Potentially he has that upside too, and has consistently put up some of those numbers in the minor leagues. He has the sneaky power to where he can complement that as well. And then one of the things I liked about this past season is he's adding the stolen bases to his game as well. He had 25 stolen bases, which was not a part of his game previously. He's rounding out to be a complete hitter. One of those guys where we talked about the different style of offense potentially that the Dodgers could potentially need. I think a guy like a Vivas could add something different to the Dodgers, a guy that's not going to strike out, a guy that's going to put the ball in play, can still draw walks, while also still having the ability to hit for power and can kind of play that middle infield. Vivas is incredibly valuable and could be one of those pieces that is needed to reel out this Dodgers roster. I absolutely love the style of play and what Vivas is able to do. He also has a little bit of speed too.
No doubt about that. Hey, going back to Drew Avens, Mike says that's exactly what the Dodgers need. 3 guys at the bottom or middle lineup of the order who put the ball in play and keep the inning going. No doubt about that. Doesn't Vivas get hit by a pitch a lot? Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, I can look. Yes. So last season, let's go to 2022, got hit by 21 pitches, which is quite a bit. And then you go last year, he throughout the full season, 27. So yes, he is hit by a lot of pitches.
I guess you learn something new every day.
Yeah. So he's tough as well too. Tough individual. He's out there every single day. Yeah, he's such a fun player to watch. So incredibly consistent.
So I was getting ready to interview Bryson Brigman, a really, really awesome interview. Not because of my part of it, but because he just did just a wonderful job on it. If you haven't checked out that interview with Bryson Brigman, please do. He's such a wonderful young man. Go over and check that out and watch that. It's a joy watching him talk because he's such a great young man. Okay, so while I was waiting for him, Bryson Brigman, it was literally like the day after they acquired Colton Wong. It was Bryson Brigman, Colton Wong, and then Vivas was trailing Colton Wong around like a little puppy, because he's like, oh, there's this veteran dude. And they literally look exactly alike from body type, and they were taking extra ground balls, and Vivas was literally just absorbing everything Colton Wong was saying. I was just so impressed with the way Vivas was out there doing extra work. It was extremely, extremely hot. And he was smart enough and motivated enough and humble enough to say, hey, here's a veteran I can learn from. I can go take ground balls and get better.
Yeah, and I think that was a really unique opportunity that the Dodgers were able to provide with a guy like Colton Wong. And I think that's a really good comp to the kind of the style of game that both of them have. And Vivas is extremely hardworking, very humble individual as well. One of those guys that is going to take those opportunities that the Dodgers do present him and absorb as much as he possibly can. So excited to see him continue to progress in this system. I think he's going to have the opportunity, likely, hopefully, at some point in this season, just with him being on the 40-man roster, depending on injury, of course, to be able to showcase some of his skills at the Los Angeles Dodgers level. I'm expecting him to start at AAA, work some things out, be able to hit some of that pitching, and then from there, he can add a really unique element, some versatility, some of that defensive ability, and also be the ability to hit against right-handed pitching as well. I think is going to be really important for him going forward.
Yep. As we're back now here, we're getting ready to wrap this thing up. Just got a message from Joe Vitrano. Going to have an interview with him probably over the Thanksgiving break. So just a reminder, I've got Patrick Copen in the can. I have not released that yet. I enjoyed that interview. Talked to Justin Robleski yesterday. Jack Dreyer, going to talk to him tomorrow. Jared Karros as well. Ryan Brown, the 2023 draft pick. Going to talk to him. Going to talk to Kendall George on Wednesday, and then both Dave Anderson and Dylan Nashaka. So we've got a lot coming, Austin.
Yeah, a lot of really good individuals, a lot to look forward. Some guys that I know, some guys that I will get to know eventually, and guys that got the Dodgers Daily community. If you have not had the opportunity to see these guys play or be able to witness their journey, I encourage you guys to watch these videos, see their journey, be a part of the progression that these individuals have. It makes this whole process a whole lot more enjoyable because you get to see each one of these guys living out their dream, fighting for it, and it makes you root for these guys a lot more. There's a reason why we root for these guys, even if they move on from the Dodgers system. It's because they are great human beings, and they also just happen to be really good at baseball.
Yep. And, hey, one last reminder. Hey, we love all the comments in the chat. This has been a wonderful chat tonight. Hadn't it been, Austin? It's been great, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been amazing.
Yeah. But also go to the regular comment section. Leave a comment there, even if it's high, even if it's anything. Just hit that algorithm for YouTube. Make sure and leave a like. Share this video on all your social medias if you don't mind. Get it out there in front of as many eyes as you can. So after this thing archives, it keeps continuing to get recommended by YouTube and gets as many views as possible. Also would like to remind you, if I can make it through this last segment here, I think I'm about to die over here, but I'm going to try to make it as best I can. Also, hey, don't have the super chat up yet, but if you're so obliged, we do have our GoFundMe account that if you'd like to donate to Dodgers Daily, however much you'd like to donate, we would certainly appreciate that. We have the link to that GoFundMe account in the description, and it's all over my social media platforms. Or you can just email me at dodgersdaily73@gmail.com. I can get you the link to it. And also, we are open for sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor this show, any of the Dodgers Daily shows, any of the webpage at dodgersdaily.net, or any of the social media platforms, we've got packages for you if you or any of your businesses would like to do that, or if you know anybody else that'd like to do that. So, hey, I think we're done with comments. Yasiel Puig, awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, obviously a lot of this talk, a lot of really important decisions for the Dodgers moving forward, a lot of exciting stuff. Dodgers Daily continues to grow. As you mentioned right there, we want to hopefully be able to send us to spring training. I know here in Michigan, I think there might be snow in the forecast for tomorrow and snow in the forecast for the next 4 or 5 months or so.
That's your fault for living in Michigan.
Yeah, that is kind of my intentional choice for living in here, but I get to witness some Great Lakes Loons baseball as well. There's pros and cons there, but no, we are excited to be able to interact with you guys. So appreciative of the sport that you guys have. Even through this offseason. We'll be here with you talking to a lot of these players, talking some Dodgers baseball. Excited to hear some of your comments. Leave some comments down in the chat.
I guarantee you when it's August 28th and it's been 100 degrees for 100 days in a row in Oklahoma and it's about actually 107, I'm so jealous that you're in Michigan at that point, Austin. So, yes, there are definitely pros and cons to all that. And I always get a kick out of, I asked Robo one of the questions, hey, man, you know, your catchers, I'd asked about the catchers. Locke was one of them, Griffin Lockwood Powell. I said, hey, yeah, and also he can give you advice for how to deal with that Michigan cold in April. And he goes, man, there ain't no advice for that. You just get the hell out of there. There's no way to play baseball and that stuff.
But those are some of my favorite games to attend when it's 40 degrees out. There's probably 50 people in the stands, but especially when you're in the road environment, you're a little bit loud. I think a lot of the players can attest that I'm a little bit vocal when I'm at those games. Nothing bad at all, but no, I think those are some of the fun games that brings out some of the true fans out there for some of those extreme cold environments. I'm sure the players hate playing in that environment, though.
Hey, fans, we would like to thank you for tuning in one last time and say, go Dodgers. Hey, and by the way, Austin, it was Michigan State last week. It's Oklahoma State this week. They call it Bedlam. I got to have a score prediction for you.
Oh, for the Oklahoma State?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll go with, let's go with 42. Let's go with 34. 42-34.
You got to tell me who's going to win. You don't want to, do you? You think OU's going to win, don't you?
I think OU's going to win.
Okay, we're ending on that. Bye.
Yeah.